Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a family mourns after remains found were identified to be their missing loved one. And millions of dollars in grant money have been awarded to the Panbull Lake Corridor project in Breathitt County.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. The time is 5:32 on June 30th. Now let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Now, Brandon, it appears that some of that haze from those wildfires is starting to move out, but we do have that severe weather threat into the weekend. So what do we need to prepare for?
Basically anything and everything, but I can tell you this, the main threat will be damaging winds. So keep that in the back of your mind there, because any storm we get, and we're seeing some storms right now, they're just not at severe limits. So again, any storm we get, excuse me, hold on just a minute. Here we go, I got it, sorry about that. Any storm that we get that reaches severe limits there will be, again, damaging winds will be the main threat. So let's take you in a little closer here for just a second. Looking at this cluster of cells right now, very electrical out there near London. So if you're in the London area, Corbin area, you're probably waking up, even Manchester back over towards Somerset, waking up with some flashes of lightning, some basically rumbles of thunder. I'm going to see how many strikes again in this. 260 strikes, basically between Somerset and let's call it basically the Big Creek area over near the Leslie County line. So just continue to be careful out there this morning, especially with heavy rain down towards Somerset. Camera actually working this time around, and you see again about 70 degrees, one of the warmer spots in the region. Dry for the moment in Somerset. All the rain is east of it. So we're looking at temperatures very mild out there, several 70s, as we see a possibility that we're already starting to warm up just a little bit, as we expected we might do, because as Olivia said, the wildfire smoke trying to drift out the way. Out the door forecast, we are going to see more chances for showers and storms off and on throughout the day. When will they happen? Well, we'll give you our best guess here in just a few minutes. Olivia?
All right, thank you, Brandon. Candy Green Gonzalez was reported missing since June of 2021. And this week, after more than 2 years of searching, remains found in April of 2022 were confirmed to be hers. WYMT's Madison Carmouche talked with Gonzalez's cousin about the discovery.
We're happy to have closure, but it's devastating to know that, you know, she's gone, and we really, this isn't what we expected. You know, we were hoping to find her, and after 2 years, you know, we kind of came to the realization, you know, it's not looking good.
Gonzalez was last seen down the road from her home. This is where they found her shoes and began their search.
Because we knew that she wouldn't just disappear and not tell us anything. That wasn't like Candy. She would always check in.
Gonzalez's cousin, Jennifer Klein, led the search efforts in the area to find Candy the last 2 years. She says she never stopped thinking about Candy and wanted to find her alive.
It's just the thought, you know, just thinking of your loved one being out there. It's really worrisome, and you don't really know how you would react in that situation till you go through it, or how you would feel, but it affects you in more ways than one.
The family was notified that the remains were Candy's after sending them off to be DNA tested.
Candy was a very happy, bubbly, energetic person.
In Prestonsburg, Madison Carmouche, WYMT Mountain News.
The family is moving forward and planning funeral arrangements for Candy. They have not been released at this time. The family of Amber Spradlin is pushing for a change to Floyd County's 911 dispatch center. Spradlin was killed last week, sending her loved ones on a journey for justice. The family hosted a news conference yesterday claiming a 911 call they believe Amber made was never answered. Prestonsburg police say they never got a 911 call from her. As the community joins their search for answers, attorneys for the family say it is important to remember the investigation is still ongoing and the details of the murder are not what the noise is all about.
Law enforcement has done an outstanding job, continuing to do an outstanding job, being very thorough, very careful to ensure that they get it right. And that's very important to Melissa and the other family members. And yes, we have no complaints and nothing but appreciation for law enforcement's conduct thus far.
Attorneys say they are focused on getting the 911 service moved back to its original location with Kentucky State Police Post 9. People in Prestonsburg gathered at the MAC yesterday to give back to their community in memory of a man who gave his all. WYMT's Jordan Mullins has more from the American Red Cross blood drive in memory of Deputy William Petrie.
Deputy William Petrie was one of 3 officers killed in the line of duty during the Allen shooting. Deputy Petrie's son, Chase Petrie, says his father spent much of his time at blood drives, giving back to his community as more than just a first responder.
I don't know how many gallons of blood he gave, but he gave a whole lot throughout his life, and it was every time there was one, every time he would be able to make it, he was there.
On Thursday, the Eastern Kentucky chapter of the American Red Cross hosted a blood drive in memory of Deputy Petrie at the Mountain Arts Center, as Friday marks 1 year since the deadly shooting.
Be able to, help other people out still in honor of Dad, because that's what he would have wanted, for us to keep helping people by doing this, and I think it's a great way to do it.
Red Cross officials say the outpouring of support will save many lives.
That will save around 150 lives because one unit will save 3 lives. So this is a wonderful outpouring today because we normally don't get this many people.
Showing that Deputy Petrie's legacy continues in the hearts and minds of those who knew him.
To be able to see the impact that Dad had on these people, that people are coming out to do it for the first time, really shows us a lot and shows how much Dad meant to everybody.
Saving lives, even in death. In Prestonsburg, Jordan Mullins, WYMT Mountain News.
Chase Petrie says this past year has been a hard one for him and his family, but the love and support from the community has helped along the way. The 2021 Kentucky Overdose Fatality Report shows nearly 73% of overdose deaths involved fentanyl in some way. Mike St. John says these deaths could be prevented if people had a way to test drugs for fentanyl. He adds the new law decriminalizing fentanyl testing strips is not an enabler, but it gives another chance for addicts seeking recovery.
We have Narcan and we will have fentanyl testing strips because we can't stop people from bringing drugs in our house. We can't. But we have to provide some safety net.
Several other bills took effect yesterday, including Senate Bill 9, which makes hazing a crime. Senate Bill 268 will let judges order people convicted in deadly DUI crashes to pay child support for victims' children. The coal-producing counties in our area will soon see their share of a $74 million allotment. WYMT's Keaton Hall has more about this year's coal servants payout, which is the largest in the past 10 years.
Producing communities without
On Wednesday, Governor Andy Beshear announced $74 million would be going to coal-producing communities across the state.
This money really belongs in the communities that are mining the coal.
The money comes from 2 coal severance programs, which are funded by state taxes on coal mining companies. This is the most awarded in the last 10 years.
These dollars help local governments pay off debts, improve critical infrastructure, expand parks and trails, and improve projects that make Kentucky a better place for everyone to live.
Perry County Judge Executive Scott Alexander says when he started 8 years ago, the county was receiving much less.
Yeah, we was getting around anywhere from 100 to 150,000 a quarter. There was no leftover at the end of the year to distribute back out to counties as well.
This year, Perry County was awarded $3.2 million. Alexander says they're focusing on improving quality of life with the money.
And we're always looking to grow new jobs and grow the economy, but you also got to have things to do for the people that live and work here. So we're going to invest a lot in our parks over the next few years.
This year's funding nearly doubles the amount doled out last year. In Hazard, Keaton Hall, WYMT Mountain News.
Alexander says he wanted to thank the governor as well as Senator Brandon Smith and Representative Chris Fugate for their work in increasing the coal servants allotment. Governor Andy Beshear, Representative Hal Rogers, and Senator Mitch McConnell recently announced more than $21 million in federal funding for the Panbowl Lake Corridor project in Breathitt County. And yesterday I was able to speak with U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg as he made a stop in the area to see the site for himself and to hear from people in the community. Following back-to-back floods in Breathitt County, Panbowl Lake raised concerns about more flooding in the future. And on Thursday, U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg saw the site for himself.
Look, the whole country took note when there were those floods, and we know that this is a vulnerable area to those extreme weather events. That's one of the reasons why, in a very competitive process, we decided to award this grant to this project for Panbowl Lake.
The grant funding is part of the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity grant program. Secretary Buttigieg says he knows the importance of the project.
The widening of Kentucky 15, that's important not just for transportation purposes, but for safety and resilience. The governor raised it multiple times with me, got a lot of letters about it, and having heard so much about this small community here in eastern Kentucky, I want to get out here and see it for myself.
The project is one of 162 projects across the country. And Kentucky Transportation Secretary Jim Gray says it shows eastern Kentucky is not being forgotten.
I was here the day after the flood, and I saw the conditions here, and I saw what needed to be done. And so it was inspiring to see that people were listening to us. And it was rewarding to see then that this grant, which was so needed for this project, was done.
And Buttigieg says his goal was to hear personal stories about what the community has overcome. And Jackson Fire Chief Chase Deaton says it was an honor that he stopped by.
I know a lot of times in emergency services, we're dealing with everybody else's problems, not really dealing with their own. But I know in this flood, in this department especially, I'd say over half of our members were in some way, some form or fashion affected by this flood. Some of our members had to be rescued. I just think it's just an honor that someone cares enough to come to Jackson.
Secretary Buttigieg went on to Lexington Thursday afternoon to highlight other Kentucky projects. The Panbowl Lake Corridor project includes widening Kentucky 15 to 5 lanes from Kentucky 30 to Kentucky 1812, adding a sidewalk and shared use path along Kentucky 15, and improving gate structures in the area. Coming up, some actors are standing with the Writers Guild after 60 days being on strike.
More strong storms are possible today and can stick with us as we transition into a new month this weekend. I'll have the latest in about 3 minutes.